ready to build resiliency, create a healthy lifestyle, and overcome adversity with a warrior mindset. This is Define the Fight with Mariah Prussia.
Hey, welcome on this fine Monday morning. I have an unbelievable individual and also U.S. Navy veteran with me today. And it's very important that we talk about what is health and diving into a deeper level. So joining me today is Paul Watts II. He is the clinical director and NFPA recognized safety director at Swanson's Hyperbarics. He is also a proud husband to his brilliant wife, father of 5, grandfather of 10, and U.S. Navy veteran. He brings nearly 30 years of hyperbaric medicine experience across clinical, research, and remote operations, along with worldwide consulting expertise. You know, Paul, I was looking at your bio, and first and foremost, I love when people share their family in their bio because it shows that they come from a heart-centered space. But looking at your levels of service and all that you bring to the Fargo-Moorhead area, I'm really excited for you to share your expertise.
Well, thank you for having me on, Mariah. I'm really looking forward to it. I was amazed when I got to Fargo just how underserved you guys were as far as hyperbaric medicine. It's been around since the 1600s, and so I assumed that it was everywhere because I came from Las Vegas where we have 11 hospitals and 9 of them have hyperbarics. So I was definitely amazed here when I got here, and that wasn't current even when we're in the state.
Well, and the thing is, too, I think within the Midwest and in this area, I think there's a lot of different areas where we're kind of behind, especially like, you know, being in the health and wellness industry as a personal trainer. I notice different functional movement patterns, different equipment we're always behind, but, you know, we're always trying to play this catch up. But the key thing is when someone is introduced and they can start bringing that into the area and try to help catch up. Let's talk about Hyperbarics, how you began to be involved. I know that you were a dive master of USS New Jersey crew dive locker. I mean, so many different things, the director of operation of Watts. And like I said, with being with Swanson's Hyperbarics, let's talk about your background and how you first started becoming invested into Hyperbarics.
Okay. That takes us back to, I guess, before the Navy. No, it wasn't the Navy. Started scuba diving in 1978 before I had what they call a sea card, which is what you need to scuba dive. But I was a sailor. We don't need those things. And then years later, I became a scuba instructor. And so one of the things we would always do, we were fortunate enough to operate outside of Catalina. And USC has a chamber there. So when we would finish diving for the day, we'd finish diving for the day, so I'd take the class over to the USC Dive Center or the chamber so they could see it. And so I spent a lot of time there. We used to volunteer and spend weekends over there. And one of the cool things with them is if you volunteer and you're a dive master or above, you can spend the time there and you work as a part of the crew for the chamber. So you'll spend the weekend there. If nobody's diving or nobody's in the chamber, then you're free to dive there in Catalina, which is a spectacular place to dive. Then from there, I was unfortunate enough in 1996, I fainted in the middle of a 10-mile run, and part of my treatment was wound care and hyperbarics. And that was at Long Beach Memorial Hospital. And I was amazed at how well it worked. Because when you mate effective, proactive wound care with a hyperbaric suite, you can actually affect change where there's no scar.
Wow.
And it completely blew me away. We had patients that took pictures when we were in the process of treating them, and then at the end, there's no scar. Because as we all know in wound care, your scab is your enemy. We didn't learn that as kids. We considered the scab as a sign of healing, but in wound care, scab's the enemy. That's what produces the scar. You prevent the scab, you prevent the scar.
Well, let's talk about how would you define hyperbarics? Because, you know, it's a buzzword for a lot of people, but there's actually a true definition.
Yes.
So with you working with a lot of different clients and patients, What does hyperbarics mean to you in regards to treatment?
Hyperbarics to me lately it's come to a lot of things. It's HBA, which is hyperbaric air, which does have its applications, and there's HBO, hyperbaric oxygen. Hospitals utilize HBO, is what the hospital utilizes. And I just think they changed the definitions in 2024. I think the FDA or Centers for Medicare, I believe they changed it to 100% oxygen delivered in a pressurized chamber greater than 1 atmosphere. That's what I believe it says. But the HBA part is coming closer to the forefront because that utilizes air. And what people don't realize, is when you apply any pressure to atmospheric air, or you apply increased oxygen, that makes it a drug. So hyperbaric oxygen is a drug. HBA, hyperbaric air, is also a drug. It's delivered at a lower pressure, but the partial pressure of the partial pressure of the breathable air makes it a drug because you're going. Right now we're breathing 21%. That's not a drug. But the second I put you inside a pressurized to 1.3 ATA mild chamber, that goes from 21 to 23. That makes it a drug. Okay. For hyperbaric HBO, we go way beyond that. We apply 100% oxygen at all steps. So 1.3, 1.5, 1.7, 2.0, all the way up to 3 atmospheres, all the way to 6. We're applying 100% oxygen. So it's a drug at that point. So when we say it's a drug, I mean it has to be prescribed by a physician. Okay.
That's interesting. No, I was looking at the different percentages. So when the percentage is increased, how much of a change does a person see? So you said from 21%, which we normally breathe,
right,
when it's increased to 23, but when you're looking at 100%, 105, what is the difference in regards to the amount that it's increased by? What does the body see?
Your body sees an increase, and it's crazy how it changes. They've been doing more and more studies overseas on that. It increases to, it's hard to go into math, but just figure it's going to be 8 to 10 times of what you would be breathing in the ICU. So if somebody in the ICU had a non-rebreather mask, 100% at 15 liters, we would be delivering 8 to 10 times that amount, and we'd also be applying pressure at the same time. There's an old study, or an old research they did back in the 1960s. I think they did it in Europe. Someone asked the question, can a mammal live without any red blood? I'm sure there's hunters out there listening to this. Think about that. If we took the red blood out of an animal, is it dead or alive? Well, we found out in the 1960s that the animal can be revived. And that was done, I think it was done in the Netherlands. What they did is they took a couple of piglets, drained all the red blood out of the pigs, filled their veins and arteries with normal saline, pressurized them to 3 atmospheres, 100% oxygen. The animals were alive.
That's crazy.
And they stayed alive as long as pressure was applied and oxygen was applied. And so I don't remember exactly how it ended, but I think the pigs lived for either 7 days or 2 weeks, and everything worked fine. And that little bit is one of those things that our friends and modern medicine, they forget that. And when you start talking to people and ask them about hyperbaric medicine, well, it doesn't work. It's this, it's that. Do you remember the science experiment with life without blood? No, because they skip over that, because it has no benefit for them to point that out. But it is possible. Just like for hyperbarics, again, this is for the EMS people. Somebody drops dead, how much time do you have to revive their heart? 4 to 6 minutes. But that's not true with hyperbarics. If I have a patient that I've been treating for 2 weeks and they drop dead outside the chamber or outside, immediately after treatment, I have 30 minutes. I repeat, 30 minutes to restart their heart. Again, that's stuff that people skip over. All right. So,
and it shows the value in regards to oxygen.
Yes.
100%. When we're going to go into a quick break here, Paul, but when we come back, I really want to talk deep about the benefits of hyperbarics, but then also some of the myths that people, or the common misconceptions that are out there. So we'll be back here shortly with Paul on Define the Fight. Hey, welcome back to Define the Fight. We are here with Paul Watts II from Swanson Hyperbarics, talking about oxygen and the importance and the pressure. And there's a lot of common misconceptions when it comes to hyperbarics. And I wanted to share this with you, Paul, is I went down to Montana's Injury Brain Alliance or Brain Injury Alliance. Mm-hmm. And there was a former boxer, professional boxer, and Todd Foster, I think it was his name. He was there and they ended up gifting him a hyperbarics chamber. And I know clearly there's different ones when you see different things that are on the market. But the way that he spoke about how it significantly helped him, a lot of CTE, so on and so forth. So I really want to dive into hyperbarics on what are the benefits, what are some of the different things, and I don't want to say treat, but what are some of the people that you see that come in and that you work with?
All right. We've seen quite a few different things. When we first opened our doors in 2021, amazingly, a lot of our patients were post-COVID. And we were amazed because people came in and they talked to their physicians, and the physician goes, you're going to have to be stuck with the symptoms for 3 to 5 years. Okay, so you're talking to lawyers, you're talking to doctors, you're talking to business owners, you're talking to farmers. They're supposed to deal with this post-COVID with 3 to 5 years. We were fortunate enough that we utilized a protocol that we were able to reduce their symptoms to where they could go back to work. And I believe it was 6 to 10 treatments. And we utilized a cool little thing we picked up from the Israelis. As far as I know, the Israeli medicine people are absolutely centuries ahead of us. So their thing was they utilized hyperbarics, but they also utilized breathing protocol along with that, which enabled us that's what actually enabled us to do our post-COVID between 6 to 10 treatments versus I think the nationwide average was 20. But what we did is we incorporated the Israeli breathing protocol into our hyperbaric treatments and had substantial improvement on people. And as far as I know, I think we check with them every once in a while, but I think we've only had like 3 people come back out of all those people we treated in the beginning. And then after that, we had diabetic foot wounds. Unfortunately, if it's not what we consider really, really bad, which is a Wagner grade 3 with some complications, then that's not covered by insurance, but we were treating people for that. We did radiation injuries, soft tissue radiation, radiation, cystitis, those types of things we did. We did a lot of concussions. We did a lot of, I'm trying to think of the other ones we did were new. Can you think of anything we did new?
Well, let's circle back to this. I want to know about this Israeli breathing protocol. If you want to break that down, because here's the thing is I'm a huge fan of breath work, right? So, okay. Right. So you think of Wim Hof, you think of box breathing, you think of all of those different components. So what is the Israeli breathing technique? Okay.
The Israeli breathing technique is a couple of variations. When I was in a service for going into stressful environments, we utilized the box breathing, like you were just talking about, 4-4-4, to bring everything down to control and be able to function. So what the Israelis did is basically the same thing, but they stretched theirs out to 6. So it's 6-second inhalation, slow and deep, 6-second pause for a 6-second exhalation. And we found that helped us a lot. It also helped a lot for our patients that had some anxiety about going into the hyperbaric chamber. We found that utilizing that version of the box breathing made things a lot easier and calmed people down, because as you know, for any kind of performance, anytime you control the breathing, you control the level. If they start hyperventilating, that brings the stress levels up, which gives you a problem. You keep their breathing under control. That keeps them under control and reduces any anxiety. But for us, it also helped break up and strengthen intercostal muscles and strengthen alveoli to help break up everything from the COVID, which, I mean, we had people that come from other parts of the country, and they said, well, we were getting COVID treatment, and they didn't have anything about this Rayleigh breathing technique. So all I can say is everything that we do at Swanson Hyperbarics is researched. If there's no research on it, we won't treat it.
Now, you had mentioned in regards to limbs, right? Mm-hmm. And different, you look more at the limb preservation versus other conventional medicine. So let's talk about that. Okay.
The limb preservation, I noticed when I got here to Fargo, like I said, you guys are a little bit behind. Limb preservation is a big thing on all coast, East Coast, West Coast, Gulf Coast, limb preservation. I was fortunate later on in my career in hyperbarics. I was partnered with a podiatric surgeon by the name of Anthony Borgia. He's since passed away, but he was definitely into limb preservation. And the reason was, to him, it affects the quality of life. If you take somebody's legs, he showed me statistics from Europe that if you take somebody's legs, they usually pass away or expire within 7 years. And his whole idea was to drive that down by preserving. So we did a lot of things that weren't normally done in a wound care clinic because we were limb preservation. Normally a wound, you usually spend like 6 weeks or 60 days, and then they're kind of sliding you towards surgery, okay? And limb preservation is exactly the opposite. That's the very last thing you want to do is amputate. That's a no-no. So we did other things. We used pharmaceutical leeches, we used maggots, we used what it's called. Nitro patches. We use nitro patches on people's feet, all of those things, external fixators, a multiple disciplinary team to make everything work, to preserve. We had a patient that was crushed. She's 28 years old with a crushed foot. Her ortho at the state hospital said, we'll just cut your foot off, get you, you'll be good. We'll get you something, you'll be fine. She didn't agree with that. She contacted us. It took us, I think they wanted to do it, like I said, 60 days and amputate. It took us 1 year and 7 months, but we did a TV commercial with Telemundo and Univision where she was at the presentation and she had some, I think they were Jimmy Choo red strappy leather shoes, and they kept looking at her face, looking at her feet, looking at her face, looking at her feet. And with high heels on, you could not tell she was missing a toe. It went from a foot crush, it was flat. It went from a foot crush, but due to limb preservation and our interdisciplinary team, all she lost was a toe. One toe, but it took us 1 year and 7 months. If ortho had their way, it would have been gone. Like I said, that's what they told her. When they had her in the ER, they said, oh, best idea is to cut it off. She goes, I'm 28 years old. You're not cutting my foot off.
I think that comes with a lot of different things. It's a quick push on, hey, let's just do this and call it a good day. And you're not, like you said, you're not looking at what is health, what is quality of life. Right. And, so it's like, hey, take this, it's going to help you. Or, hey, let's amputate, and then it's just going to be good. Then you can put on, a prosthetic, right?
Yeah.
But at the same point, we have to look at the fact of this is there's a lot of people that have a warrior mindset, like, okay, give it to me straight, and I want to do the work. Right. I want to do the work, and I want to maintain my body that God gave me, right? And I'm going to do anything and everything that it takes. And looking at the fact of more holistic practices in certain ways, right. They're coming more and more to the forefront. And I've heard unbelievable stories about individuals getting back to, if not 100%, whatever their new 100% is, and it's great to hear. We're going to go into a quick break, though, here, quick, Paul. But when we come back, I want to talk about PEMF, right? Another buzzword, but we're going to dive in because it's great for people to learn more, and that's what it's all about here on Define the Fight. Hey, we are back here with Paul Watts II from Swanson's Hyperbarics, talking about the importance of where you can utilize it, right? So you're looking at inflammation, infection, wound healing, all of those things. But, there's so many different things that are now out on the market or available for individuals. One that I do want to talk about is PEMF, or pulsed electromagnetic field. So let's talk about what that is and then how you guys also utilize that over at Swanson's.
Okay, pulsed electromagnetic field comes from, I won't say discovered or found by Nikola Tesla back in the 1890s. And it's an amazing technology for us because it does the primary functions of the PEMF is anti-inflammatory and increases circulation. That's what it does the best. We utilize it a lot for depression, anxiety. We also utilize it as part of our concussion protocol, which is absolutely crazy when we utilize it because we have our patients do their treatments for concussion, or hyperbaric treatment, followed by their time with the PEMF. And that just helps us so much more because, again, what's the function of hyperbarics? Anti-inflammatory. What's the function of the PEMF? Anti-inflammatory. We put the two of them together. We played with that for quite a while, and then we found out that the Dr. Pollack, I believe he's out of Maryland, he utilizes the PEMF for concussions. And then we also found out that our friends across the ocean, the Israelis, are also playing with the idea of utilizing the PEMF in conjunction with their concussion. So that's been a boon for us because we've used it for both those, and we use it just people that come in. You have any issues with inflammation. Okay, what's arthritis? Okay, arthritis is pain. Pain, 85% of that is inflammation. We put you on the PEMF, 12 minutes, 24 minutes, 36 minutes, and it goes down. And we use it a lot. Like I said, we use it for sprains. We have tons of athletes. Probably average, this time of the year, we probably average like 5 high school or college athletes, usually a day, that are coming in. The unique thing about the PEMF is it doesn't, once you've been cleared, it doesn't require to see a physician. You can come in anytime during our hours and utilize the PEMF. And we have more than anywhere else in the country. The average clinic, I think the average clinic here in town has 1 PEMF system. We have 14 PEMF mats. We have more than anywhere else in the country.
So when you're talking about the mats, right? So what is the experience when somebody first comes in for PEMF, right? So it's like, okay, what am I going to do here? What is the breakdown? I mean, because it's fact, right? It's kind of like the first time that somebody comes into the gym.
Right.
Their anxiety level is high.
Right.
They have no idea how to utilize certain things, or they're questioning like, okay, what should I do first? Or what is this going to do for me, right? So what is PEMF when they come in? What should they expect?
Okay, with PEMF, we always tell them our tagline created by Earl Kennedy, our director of hyperbarics and safety. He goes, "We guarantee you that you're going to feel something you've never felt before." And we all start laughing, and that person's like, "That wasn't funny."
Because they're like, what does that mean?
They go, "What does that mean?" So we have them lay on the mat, and we talk to them, have them take anything that can be affected by electromagnetics has to come off. So we have found that the iPhone 12 gets zeroed out. We found that the Apple Watch goes dead, but you can regenerate that. I personally found out that the little microchip in your key goes dead. So those things come off. Then we have them lay on the mat, and there's someone there the whole time. One of the big things we believe at Swanson Hyperbarics, everything is conducted best practice, best practice, best practice. We're putting you into a foreign environment. There's always going to be someone there. There's always someone there with you. Doesn't matter if you're using hyperbarics, you're using Hocket, you're using PEMF. When you open your eyes, there's someone standing right there. So we have them lay down on the mat. We utilize the Hugo system, which is a sandwich design. So you lay on a mat, you lay down, we put a mat over the top of you, and then we turn the machine on. We're walking you through the whole time, and we're turning up the intensity of the machine. And the unique thing that makes the PEMF different is you feel it pulsing from the inside out, not like a TIMS unit, which is outside in. So you feel it coming from your bones out to your skin. And as we turn up the intensity, you'll notice. And then the other cool thing about pulsed electromagnetic energy is it automatically finds the areas of imperfection. So you'll have somebody, oh, I'm in perfect health. Yeah, I'm an endurance runner. Okay. We put them on the mat. Oh, what's the matter? My hip hurts, or my knee hurts, or my back hurts. And so it automatically finds it. And then after they've been on the mat, each session is 12 minutes long. So while they're on the mat, we ask them, every once in a while, has it moved? How's it feel now? Where do you feel it the most? And it's been crazy because the patient will lay there and I go, they didn't put on their list that they had a joint replacement. But then they go, oh, I feel this in my knee. Well, why is that? Well, I had a knee replacement. Well, you didn't put that on the sheet. They go, well, I didn't think it didn't matter, but okay, but that's an imperfection. To the PEMF, that's an imperfection in the body. So it's automatically going to go there, and it does it automatically. We had a patient a year ago, 2 years ago, that he felt it most under his ribs and his back. And again, one of our attendants goes, do you have any kidney issues? He goes, no, not that I know of. Well, 3 sessions later, it was still concentrated there in his back, lower under his ribs. So he went to go see his doctor, and it found out that he had kidney disease. But he didn't know that prior to utilizing the PEMF.
So that creates a lot of body awareness, right? But
Yes.
again, different indicators. Now, when you're talking about joint, you're talking about muscle, you're talking about organ, have you had individuals, and I'm just going to use women, who are having hormonal challenges, right, with different shifts? What have you seen with that, especially when you're going, like women, perimenopause, menopause, that are having a lot of different symptoms from hot flashes, headaches, nausea, all that jive?
That's always improved. And another cool thing we found out again, working with our friends from Italy, not Italy, the Israelis, is when a woman has a concussion, it affects her body pH. And never knew that. That was one of those interesting things you learn. But it affects the body pH. So utilizing the PEMF, we're able to positively affect that. And we also, when we're going to do that, but then we would switch them over also to using the Hocket, which is another amazing technology that we have at the clinic. So that works really well for that. And we have a lot of women that come to us for that. In fact, there's 2 little old ladies that come to us from Jamestown during the summer, and that's what they do. They come down, they'll do 3 sessions of the PEMF for their arthritis and their women things, and then they'll go do a massage, and then they'll go dinner, then they'll go back to Jamestown. So it works for a multitude of things. We are always learning on what we can use it for.
Right.
So we've used it for, like I said, for a lot of our athletes, because we can utilize the sandwich design, but it also has rings. And the rings enable us to focus that pulsed electromagnetic energy into a smaller area. So we've been returning volleyball players, hockey players, football players back to the field from joint injuries in half the time, which has been amazing. In fact, we had the UND women's basketball team. They spent the whole afternoon there. They left, went to do whatever they were doing, and they came back. They brought their trainer and their coach with them, and they utilized the PEMF. We had a gentleman that fell off a cliff way up north.
I was going to say it wasn't in North Dakota.
No, not in North Dakota. But he fell off a cliff, and he was fortunate enough when he fell off the cliff, they were in the back country, but 3 of the people he was hunting with, they were firefighter paramedics, but they had none of the fancy equipment they had. But they kept him alive for the 3 days to get him out. And so he was back in Winnipeg, and he happened to see one of our ads. And so he drove down from Winnipeg with his friends. He did a week. He did 3 sessions a day, 5 days a week for an entire week. And it made such a positive effect on him because almost all the major bones in his body were broken or damaged. And they had done so much patchwork on his bones and on his muscles and tendons. So he bought a machine, actually 2 machines, and put them in his garage up in Winnipeg. That's how well the technology works. It started out, like I said, with NASA. NASA used it first. And then the PEMF progressed to the veterinary side, and then finally to humans. So it's been around a long time, and it's been utilized a lot.
When you're talking about athletes, so you think of athletes of all ages, and what we have clearly seen is that a lot of the athletes are mineral deficient. You look at the fact of nutrition, but the injury rates are increasing significantly.
Yes.
So it's nice to see that you can serve that demographics where they have different things that they're not, the supplementation that's needed within their body.
Right. And we've been looking at that as well. The other thing we found out too is none of this works without proper and effective nutrition. And toward that end, Swanson Hyperbarics has engaged a functional nutritionist to help with that, because everything that we do, concussion, nutrition, arthritis, nutrition, surgery, nutrition, it all boils down to that. But ask yourself, when you're in your doctor's office for anything, when did he mention anything to you about nutrition? I mean, as far as wound care goes, that's the cornerstone of nutrition. When I worked in wound care in Long Beach, California, we had an entire room, and that's all it was, I forget what they were back then, but they were just cases of liquid protein. Why? You need protein to heal the wound. So the patient would come in, and we would give them, the nutritionist would look at their profiling, oh, you're this, and they're this, and they're this. And we would give them, either they would be getting, it wasn't Gatorade, I forgot what it was back then. I think it was Powerade. They'd get Powerade, or they would get a case of liquid protein. And that was to drive the protein levels up. And even you get here, you would think here in North Dakota and Fargo, people would be getting adequate nutrition, but they're not. And that's one of the great things about bringing on a functional nutritionist is to give us that extra coverage. And so every one of our patients that comes in can have a complimentary 15-minute functional nutrition consult with our nutritionist to just help iron things out. Because a lot of things, like we were talking about, for menstruation and stuff like that, not menstruation, but arthritis and Alzheimer's, all those things still come back to nutrition. Nutrition can affect all of those things.
Well, and the reality is how you feel is how you're going to feel, and that's how your body is going to perform. We're going to go into a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about the different services that you could provide, and I know that you guys also have an event that's coming up here soon. So we'll be back here shortly on Define the Fight. Hey, we are talking Hyperbarics, PEMF, and so much more when it comes to health and wellness. We're here with Paul Watts II, and I want to talk a little bit more about Swanson's Hyperbaric on what you guys all offer, but then I know you guys have an event that's coming up this Thursday as well, a patient appreciation on Thursday, March 12th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So it's always nice to make sure that you are acknowledging the individuals that keep your doors open, right?
That's correct. The technology is available for at Swanson's. Like I said, we have the functional nutrition. We have Hyperbarics, of course, that's what we're known for. And then we have the HBOT, which is hyperthermic ozone carbonic acid transdermal technology, which is a unique technology available here in North Dakota. When we started 4 years ago, we had the only one in the tri-state area, and it's since grown. We started out with one system. Now we have 3 of them, which I believe, unless somebody corrects me, we're the only place in the United States that has 3 of the HBOT systems. And then we also have the PEMF, which is kind of like our baby. Again, 4 years ago when we started, I think there was a couple in chiropractors' offices, but it almost cost you between $80 to $200 to use. We have 14 systems. We have more systems for the PEMF in our building that are available anywhere else in the United States. And that I can take to the bank. There's nobody that has more than we do. The patient appreciation part about, we've made that like a quarterly thing here at Swanson's, because we've found that 85% of our success has come from word of mouth from our patients. And they're coming in, oh, I brought somebody in. We've had people come from as far away as Omaha. We've had people come from Montana. We've had people come from Canada. And why are they coming? Because they're talking to their friends. So we said, okay, let's kind of embrace that and let them know how much they appreciate it. So we always, like every quarter, we have something going on as far as patient appreciation. I think we did a barbecue, I think during the summer. I'm not sure what Star has in our functional nutritionist has in mind for us this Thursday, but that's from 5 to 7, and we invite people to come down. And one of the cool things about when we do our patient appreciation is you get to try the PEMF for free. Imagine that. You get to try a cutting-edge technology for free. Right? There's someone there all the time. All the staff will brief you on it. If you just want to watch somebody do it, you can do that as well. But it's one of those things that's not often that we allow people to do the PEMF for free. So there's usually a line, but since like I said, we have 14 systems, so there's usually not a line to wait for.
Now, on top of the patient appreciation, I know some of the questions that people will have is, do you take insurance?
Yes, we do. We take 16 different insurances. We also do the cash pay. We also have financing, because we found that some of the people do. We were amazed that a lot of people do pay cash for services here in North Dakota. I was amazed because they don't do that in Vegas. But we also do insurance as well, because that kind of makes people's money go a little further. And like I said, that's one of the things we did when we first started. We didn't. And we came back around to the fact, that enables us to treat more people.
100%.
Yes.
Well, in today's day and age, too, you look at different inflation and different costs, and people want to make sure that, hey, they're less apt to really spend money on themselves when they're trying to provide in different areas, right? So that's great that you offer that. But, one thing or a couple things that I did want to add is that you guys work with veterans, America's Mighty Warriors, the VA, but then also you have a partnership with UND, so the School of Medicine and Biomedical Engineering as well.
Yes, we as of May of last year, we formed a partnership with the UND School of Medicine. We had pick up our first medical student here in October, which we're all excited for. We also are in the middle of 2 projects with the HyperView camera for non-invasive vascular studies that's UND School of Biomedical Engineering, and we're partnering with a company out of California for that. We're also partnered with the Amon's Clinic, which is practically world renowned, but we're their referral source, a referral treatment center here in North Dakota.
It's amazing, and I love the fact that you're partnering with different areas, but not only that, with colleges, because people are always looking for, hey, once I complete my degree, what are my options? What is available? And clearly with the growing demand of health, and, we are a very diseased country. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we're providing different options for people. Right. So you do want to share your website too, so people can check out your guys' website? Yes,
it's swansonhyperbarics.com, and you could log on to there and enable you to do a few things. I'm not sure if we still do the PEMF scheduling on there, but you can. Like I said, the PEMF is our one technology that doesn't require anything after the first initial sign-off by the physician.
Oh, that's all right. It's all good. No worries. Yeah. So, Paul, I want to thank you first and foremost so much for joining me today, sharing your wealth of knowledge and what you have brought to the Fargo-Moorhead area. But also, too, if you have not checked out Swanson Hyperbarics, make sure that you put this in your calendar. Thursday, March 12th, which is this Thursday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's patient appreciation. And if you're wondering about PEMF, you have the opportunity to lay on the mat and, just take it all in, because that's what life is all about is, until you try it, how do you know? Yes. And I think it's a great way to move forward. So until next week, until you define the fight, how do you expect to win the fight? We'll see you next week.